As I stepped out the shop, the pendant now safely in my possession, I noticed a peculiar sight. The dogs were staring at me intently, unmoving. The stillness felt unnatural, as if they knew something that I didn't. I approached them cautiously, untying their leashes from the post. "Right, where do you want to go?" I asked with a smile, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling their stare had left me with. The dogs perked up immediately, tails wagging enthusiastically, as if they had been waiting for my cue. "Let's go, everyone," I called out cheerfully, hoping to lift my spirits. The dogs bounded forward, exploring the street with renewed energy. Yet, as I glanced back, I noticed the golden retriever was still watching me intently. "Come on, buddy," I encouraged him, patting my thigh invitingly. Surprisingly, the dog hesitated for a moment, as if deliberating before finally trotting over to join the rest of the pack. I chuckled softly to myself, attributing the strange moment to my own imagination. We continued our walk down the unfamiliar street, the dogs leading the way with their curious noses and playful antics. The strange vibe of the street seemed to fade into the background as I focused on enjoying the afternoon with my furry companions. It was now Monday night, and I was in a foul mood. I had just returned from college, so exhausted that I went straight to bed without even bothering to shower or change out of my clothes. It all started earlier at my cashier job. The supermarket checkout line was unusually long, and all the electronic services seemed to have decided to work slower than usual today, much to my frustration. One impatient customer in particular began loudly complaining about the delay, directing verbal attacks at me. Already stressed from the sluggish register, I snapped back at the insult, earning a stern reprimand from my boss. He made it clear that he didn't need an employee who mistreated customers, with an implied threat of termination. Fearful of losing my job, I quickly apologised, explaining how stressed I was, though it barely felt like an excuse. With upcoming exams at college, the pressure of balancing studies, rent, and groceries, on top of potentially losing my job, weighed heavily on my mind. My boss wasn't entirely forgiving, but at least he didn't fire me on the spot. Despite his stern warning, I was grateful to still have the job, even though the fear of losing it lingered in my mind. Later that evening, I found myself at college, trying to focus on my studies, despite the events of the day weighing heavily on me. During a particularly intense lecture, my phone started buzzing repeatedly, even though I had put it on silent mode. It vibrated incessantly until the professor called me out, his tone more disappointed than angry. "Mr. Thompson, please step outside and take care of that," he said, gesturing towards the door. The eyes of my classmates followed me as I hurried out, feeling a wave of embarrassment and humiliation wash over me. Once outside the classroom, I checked my phone. It was my girlfriend calling me repeatedly. I took a deep breath and answered, hoping to explain. "Hey, what's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice as calm despite the tension. Her voice was sharp with frustration. "Don't hate me. Where the heck have you been? I've been trying to reach you all day." She sounded hurt and angry. I'm so sorry. I've had a really tough day," I replied, attempting to justify myself. "Work was chaotic, and then I had this incident with my boss. I'm really not in the mood for accusations right now." She scoffed. "Yeah, right. The incident with your boss? Like I can't read between the lines. You're probably out with some chick, aren't you? Do you think I'm stupid? No, it's not like that at all, I insisted, feeling frustration rising within me. I've been swamped with work and school. I haven't had a chance to breathe, let alone cheat on you. Her voice softened slightly, but the scepticism remained. I don't know, Jake. It just feels like you're never there for me anymore. Maybe we need to take a break. My heart sank. Wait, what? A break? Come on, can't we talk about this? She sighed heavily. I don't know if there's anything left to talk about anymore, Jakey. You're always so disorganized and lazy when it comes to us. I need someone who can prioritise me. I felt a lump in my throat, struggling to find the right words to salvage the situation. Please don't do this. I'm sorry if I've been distant. I'll try harder, I promise. There was a long pause before she finally spoke again. Her voice softer now. I don't know, Jake. I need time to think. I'll call you later. The call ended, leaving me feeling utterly defeated. The weight of my responsibilities seemed heavier than ever. I tossed and turned in my bed, eventually lying on my back and reaching for the pendant hanging around my neck. I held it in my hand, tracing its detailed lines with my finger before finally succumbing to a deep sleep. The next morning, my phone's alarm jolted me awake. I groggily reached out to silence the annoying sound, only to freeze in a panic as I realised I wasn't wearing the same clothes I had gone to bed in. Did I change before sleeping? It seemed unlikely. I distinctly remembered being too exhausted to bother to change, yet here I was, dressed in fresh clothes that I couldn't account for. Shaking off the odd feeling, I pushed the unsettling thought to the back of my mind and hurried to start my day. On my way to work, however, an overwhelming sense of déjà vu washed over me. The people passing by on the sidewalk, the cars honking in traffic. It all felt like a repeat of yesterday. At first, I brushed it off as a mere coincidence, but as one coincidence piled onto another, I couldn't ignore the strange sensation gnawing at me. Arriving at work, I caught myself in the same routine as the previous day. The checkout line was long again, the electronic systems slower than usual. A familiar sense of frustration began to simmer within me, mirroring yesterday's tense atmosphere. Suddenly, a man's voice boomed out loud, complaining about the delay and launching into an attack. What's taken this long? This is ridiculous. Is there a slug as a cashier or something? His words hit me as recognition dawned. The man's face and voice were unmistakable. I couldn't explain how or why, but it dawned on me. I was reliving yesterday's events, and no one seemed to find it odd. Was this only happening to me? With a growing sense of unease, I resisted the urge to respond, instead keeping my focus steady. I wasn't sure if altering the future was wise or even possible. As my shift finally ended and I left the supermarket, my boss approached me with a surprising comment. What a day, huh? He remarked, his tone lighter than I expected. He commended me for keeping my cool and doing my job as good as I could, despite the challenges. I nodded, a mixture of relief and confusion swirling inside me. Had I just experienced a glitch in time, or was I losing my grip on reality? Boarding the bus to college, I remembered my girlfriend and pulled out my phone. As I glanced at the screen, I noticed Monday displayed prominently. How had I not noticed the date earlier? It added another layer of confusion to an already bewildering day. I had somehow lost track of time. Or was this part of the strange repetition I seemed trapped in? I scrolled through my notifications to find several missed calls and messages from my girlfriend. Guilt washed over me as I realised how preoccupied I had been with the bizarre events unfolding around me. Quickly, I tapped out a message to her, trying to sound reassuring despite my own uncertainty. Hey, I'm sorry for not answering earlier. I'm really busy with classes today. I'll keep my phone off during lectures. I'll call you as soon as I get back home this evening. Hang in there. Sending the message, I hoped it would appease her concerns, though I knew deep down it wouldn't erase the underlying issues between us. Arriving at college, I tried to focus on my studies, seeking solace in the routine of lectures and assignments. The day dragged on, and by the time I returned to my apartment, I felt utterly drained. With a heavy sigh, I pulled out my phone and turned it on, bracing myself for the inevitable notifications. Sure enough, there were numerous missed calls and messages from my girlfriend. With a sense of resignation, I dialed her number. After a few rings, she picked up. Where the hell have you been? Why haven't you been answering? Are you with someone else? Her voice was a mix of anger and desperation, clearly indicating she'd been crying for hours. I sighed deeply, trying to keep my cool. I've been at college, studying. I told you I was busy. Why do you always jump to the worst conclusions? Don't lie to me. I know you're cheating on me. You never have time for me anymore, she screamed, her voice breaking. I couldn't take it anymore. The stress of my job, my studies, and her constant accusations were pushing me to a breaking point. I'm not cheating on you, damn it. I'm just trying to keep up with everything. Why is it so hard for you to understand this? I shouted back, surprising even myself with the intensity of my anger. I'm a person who usually avoids confrontation, but I couldn't take it anymore. She went silent for a moment. Then her voice turned cold. If you don't care enough to make time for me, then maybe we should just end this. Her threat, which usually filled me with dread, now felt like a release. I'd had a lot of time to think during my repetitive day, reflecting on our relationship. I realised how unhappy I was with her, constantly bending over backwards to keep her satisfied, enduring her accusations and threats. It wasn't fair to either of us. Yeah, maybe we should, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I'm tired of always feeling like I'm not enough for you. We should break up. There was a long silence on the other end. When she finally spoke, her voice was small, almost disbelieving. Fine, if that's what you want. I quickly recognised the guilt trap, but I didn't take the bait. If she wants to make me the bad guy, so be it. Better alone than in bad company.